have that until like a couple months ago, and now that it started, it just does my head.
I appreciate I also have started doing a podcast, and I just experienced that for the first time with somebody doing a Zoom call, and we were both really thankful that it was so communicative. Like the voice of Zoom is like leaves no room for passive aggression, no room for miscommunication. They're like, you are being recorded, like you
like
decided
the
you want
robot
that
in 2001.
I didn't know if I could go there, but yeah, that's exactly what it is.
I'm sorry, Dave.
I just watched that movie. I'd never seen the full thing, and they were showing it at like a theater in Nashville. It blew my mind. It was crazy.
That movie's a trip.
Yeah, wild. Like crazy thing to see in person too. Sorry, not in person, like in a theater.
Great, yeah. I remember I saw it at a theater because it was like the 50th anniversary, like a few years ago or something. They did it with like the intermission and everything. It was really cool. Like you went in and they did the overture and stuff. Yeah,
they did that.
Yeah, it was sick.
They did that at the theater we were at too, and I just kept looking around and being like, is everyone just like down for this? Like, are we all just like accepting how fucking weird this is? But yeah, it was a great experience.
I remember when I went as well, because it was at distance when you went and saw it. It was a few months ago.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I was actually only like 3 or 4 weeks ago, I guess, that we saw it.
That's what I want to get back to, when you can be in a theater with people and everyone's kind of right next to each other and it's a full house and you get that collective, feeling as the lights go down. Yeah, it was so nice to like, I think they actually had, now that I'm thinking about it, I think it was only like 75% capacity or something. But even then it was like, I kind of liked sitting next to someone I didn't know that like I wouldn't have particularly sat next to just because it was a stranger, like some part of that experience of just having totally your own perspective of something in a room full of people who are having also their own perspectives of something was like, that's half the fun of going to a movie, is you get to feel like your own little, like, you get to be hate to use the phrase main character, but yeah. As long as it's not to the detriment of your experience. Remember I went to the theater a couple of years back, I can't remember what it was to say, but it was this really like unfunny comedy, and it was kind of like old fashioned, and there was a guy in the theater, was in his mid 60s maybe, and he had this really high pitched like laugh, like just the whole way through, and it was horrific. God, but don't you love it? I just went and saw they were showing Children of Men. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. Yeah, I can't imagine that in the theater with the beautiful kind of long shots and takes. And incredible. Amazing. That was the first time I'd seen it, but I also sat next to someone who, like, there aren't very many funny parts in that movie, but this person really was getting pleasure. It's a pretty bleak film. So I could not imagine sitting next to this person in, like, I don't know, some like early 2000s comedy, because this person was like losing their mind every joke. But it was like endearing. I missed that feeling of being frustrated or being like, how is this person not getting what's happening? Yeah, when our lives have been so condensed into this, handful of maybe like 5 or 10 different feelings like the last year. Wow. It's nice to get back into that space where different stuff can actually happen. Totally. That's a great way to put it. I mean, I didn't really think about that. I guess I've been thinking about that more while writing again. Like this past month has been like the most socially chaotic I think I've had in a while, as I'm sure it is for a lot of people. And I think I've been going through this mental process of like, am I feeling new things? Like, am I just going through a period of growth, or am I just remembering what it felt like to have feelings like frustration or jealousy or whatever normal social feelings we're like typically dealing with? You know what I mean? It's been a whole new set of old feelings. It's been a lot. That's kind of cool though, getting to experience them again for the first time. Yeah, I feel even if they're negative feelings, just to get something different, Yeah, I didn't think I'd ever want to feel like 14 again, but it's like kind of fun to be like mad for no reason. What's this podcast you're starting? That's a really awesome question that I like don't have a great answer to. I just during the lockdown, I was like getting really into podcasts, and just like found myself listening to them a lot, and just had the classic like, oh, I wonder if I could do that too thought, and then just assembled the group of people that kind of like helped my like first album
come together and thought that it would be a cool concept to just interview all of those people and just do like a short season, just have conversations with those people and ask some questions about their experience, like contributing awesome stuff to the record. So I think it's only like 6 or 7 episodes. Thanks. What was your experience like starting this? Like, because you've been at this for a minute. Like, this is like such an awesome established thing.
Well, I mean, we started off doing like video interviews to start with, like in person, like at shows and stuff. But then obviously when lockdown happened last year, I was very hesitant to go into the Zoom world and start doing podcasts. But then when it became apparent that this wasn't going to go away for a while, in order to speak to different people, it became the natural thing. And then I just kind of got into the rhythm of it. And before you know it, you're putting out like 5 a week or whatever, and kind of you're in that flow state.
Yeah, that's incredible. What was your hesitation?
Because it's not as good as being in person. Which, to be honest, I still stand by that. Yeah. It's just you've kind of got to accept a watered down version while we're in this pandemic. You know,
totally. And I think this is a time that podcasts can serve well, considering, like you said, we're only experiencing a handful of emotions, or were more so a couple months ago. Even just hearing 2 people talk and potentially brushing against other emotions is like, I don't know, like cathartic.
I think it makes people more willing to open up when we're kind of in the pandemic and we're doing this, because it's a space that they don't really have in their life. Like, we don't have the coffee shop, you know?
Right.
We've got to find somewhere else for that outlet.
Totally. And most of us are doing this from our rooms or our homes, where like we've probably been sitting with the thoughts that we're going to share in a conversation, like in our heads all day beforehand. You know what I mean? Like, I've loved being able to like just go straight from literally sitting on my bed watching the movie to like walk over to this desk and put the laptop down and then hop into conversation, like being the same person that I was when nobody was looking. You know what I mean?
It's almost like you're tricking your mind, because you're in a physical space that you're very comfortable with.
Totally.
But you don't make that jump to being like in the studio.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or yeah, even, man, I got chills when you said coffee shop. Like the thought of like, we've done that a little bit, but like the thought of meeting up with somebody right now and like doing the whole thing where I'd like get really worried about my clothes if it seems like I care enough or not enough, and then going,
oh, you notice that stain on your t-shirt right before you go in.
Oh, like mid conversation too. And you're like, oh, I know they see it, everyone here sees it. Yeah, I mean, as you say that, I see that I have pineapple salsa on my pants that I wore yesterday.
I think I've got a bit of chocolate on my t-shirt as well, so
but that's,
you're not alone.
Okay, thank you. That's endearing. I love that it's chocolate of all things. It's like, I think that
I was having a cornetto.
Oh, I don't think I've ever had one of those.
Are they British?
I guess so. Yeah, I don't think I've had one of those.
That's weird.
What is it? Is it like a candy bar?
No, it's like an ice cream, and it's got,
I know what you're talking about.
Like in a cone, and it's got chocolate at the bottom.
Right, it's like a swirl. Yeah, we call they have like drumsticks here.
It's weird how you have these kind of like cultural mirrors. Like they're the same thing, but just in slightly different packaging and a little bit sweeter or whatever.
And so often, I feel like the ones in the States are like less cool. Like they're just so much more like a drumstick. What the hell are we doing? You know,
we've got a sweet that's a drumstick though, like a weird like gooey lollipop thing.
Oh, that sounds nice. I feel like it's tough for me to associate the word drumstick with something like fruity, because I'm so used to just like
mine keeps coming back to music.
Yeah, exactly. I can't get it off my brain. I'm addicted.
It's funny because when we were talking about coffee shops a couple of minutes back, my mind was drawn to the fact that you wrote the first song on this new album in a coffee shop, right?
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. Luckily, it was in. That's thorough. Yeah, it was after hours at the coffee shop that I worked at. I had like my manager.
Were you the only one there?
Yeah, it was just me. I was like, I closed up that night and everybody left, and it was like a really cool vibe at this coffee shop where like everyone that worked there had a key, and like you could kind of come and go whenever. And like, I don't think the like owner knew we were doing that, but the manager at the time was just like a really laid back guy, and he always had like a guitar in the office. So I just like settled up, counted the money in the register or whatever, and then just like was putting it in the office and found the guitar in there. It was so awesome. I started doing it a bunch, but would just sit out in like the dining room with all the lights off except for like the closing lights, and then just play for hours. It was so fun.
For hours?
Sometimes, if I didn't have anywhere to go, and if I didn't get too scared that somebody was going to walk in.
Or a ghost.
Yeah, definitely so haunted. That place had to be haunted for sure. And there was one night where, this is the first time I'm really revealing this to the world, where we like stayed the night in there. Like we got off and then acted like we went home, and then a couple people, like, we just slept in the restaurant, which is like such a violation of health codes. But we like all fell asleep, and then at like 5 a.m. the guy who worked in the kitchen came in to like clock in, and like poor guy like opened the door to see like multiple people just sleeping on the floor and was like so terrified. Rightfully so.
Why did you decide to spend the night?
I genuinely think we had nothing better to do. I think that it was like,
have a sleepover.
Yeah, might as well. And there was free food. Like, food was really good there, so just like
Happy
eating
days.
pastries. Yeah, fantastic time. Really good. We brought an air mattress.
Did you wait? So this was tactical. This wasn't a spur of the moment decision. This was planned.
It was sporadic, but it was one of those things where like, what if we did this? And then somebody was like, well, I've got blankets in my car, and someone was like, I actually have an air mattress. I was camping last week, and then I was like, I like left a bunch of like snacks in my car from whatever, and then it was like, well, we could set up a small civilization here, and we did.
With syncing, you opened the album with it, but you used to open your set with it for quite a while as well, right?
Yeah, I think the last run that we did almost a month or two ago, we still opened every set with that one. Yeah, I'm so attached to it now. I think it'd be maybe strange to change it up, but I think we've talked about some other possibilities of opening sets, and I think once we hit like the headlining run next year, there's just so many dates where we'll have the opportunity to try a lot of new stuff, but there's something so comforting, and I just feel so much of like my identity in that song, and it feels really good to just like start off a show being like, this is what we're about, and like, this is what I am about. You know what I mean?
It's like a statement of intent.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. Just from the jump, like, hey, if you don't, maybe this is like a bad mindset to have about playing music for really kind people, but like, it's like, if you don't like this, the next like 40 minutes to an hour are like probably not going to be pleasurable for you.
You probably want to grab a beer.
Yeah.
Say that at the start. If you don't like this, you probably want to go and grab a beer.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I've heard the food here is great. Go check that out. You can go outside, smoke, call your family, do whatever you need to do. Like, we'll probably be wrapped up by then. Yeah, man. I mean, good Lord, we used to open with that song on like some of the tours where there was really, really nobody there. And we would play that song for like 10 minutes. Like, just so ridiculous. Like, just end it and then just like keep droning on it and like just screaming, thinking I was fucking Cobain.
The Grateful Dead.
Yeah. Cobain mixed with the Grateful Dead, which is the collab of the century.
You reference the Grateful Dead in this record, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
On, is it Why? What's the song that's got the chorus where you have all the different...
Cinnamon.
No, it's not Why.
Yeah.
Cinnamon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Sugar Magnolia, right?
Yeah.
I think, wait, is that what the words? Sugar Magnolia? Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Dude, I was just saying last night to my girlfriend, like, if I had to, like, if someone asked me to just speak the words to any of those songs, I don't think I could do it. Like, it's such a muscle memory thing to like sing them, and same with the guitar parts. Like, I couldn't tell you what chords or notes they are, but it's so strange how it's such a muscle memory thing.
Yeah, I guess just once you've been on the road and you're kind of playing them for such a while and you get that consistency going.
Totally. Yeah, I miss that feeling so much. Like, that's my favorite part about tours, being able to like physically feel. Like, I remember the first time we started to play hour-long sets, like, we were all just so dead afterwards, and we're like, how the hell are we going to do this every night? Like, that felt like a Grateful Dead set. And then 2 months of doing that, an hour like fucking flew by, you know? And then it's like, whoa, we could have kept going for another hour. Like, I miss that feeling of like being in the routine. I'm really looking forward to that.
It comes back to muscles. You just build them up as long as you keep exercising.
Literally, I mean,
that set.
Yeah. I mean, same with, literally singing I just felt, I missed that feeling. Like my voice feels so weak now. Like if I talk too much in a day, I get tired. So like touring is going to take a minute. I've got to start singing a lot before we get back out.
It's such a strange environment because on the one hand, it's constantly changing. Every day you're on a motorway, you're on a road, and it's shifting. Right. But then at the same time, there's a massive degree of consistency about it because you're always on the road. Yeah. You're always playing the same set every night.
And I think that can be a brutal realization.
It's tough to navigate. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's where you kick into the moment that it starts to feel routine, that like inconsistency starts to feel routine. Like, I think that's, not to sound like Matthew McConaughey, but or some shit, like that's when it gets fun, man. Like but like truly that's like the part, I guess, in my mind where it's like cool, I know what to expect, or like I know what unexpected things to expect. Like how can I make this a fun new experience for myself and like for the band. And like we all, you know, I think the last long run we did was like 60 days or something, and like the last 30, like around the halfway mark probably, we all kind of felt like we were in the swing of it and all started to do new things. Like I started reading a ton in the van and like writing a lot in the van, just like journaling and poems and shit. And like I hadn't done that before, but it was like cool. I'm not as in like awe of maybe these long drives, or like I'm not as nervous about pulling up to a new city and wondering if anyone's going to be there. Like, so I can actually be maybe growing during this time. And like I watched the band also do like a lot of really cool stuff. Like two of our members are in a band called Future Crib outside of playing with this project, and they were constantly writing and like recording demos in the van and doing so much. And I love like the double duty of like being on the road but also still being able to grow and like still being able to work on shit.
Is that a different kind of growth to when you're in the one place?
That's a really great question. I think it is the same, maybe, but I think you're allowed to like focus on yourself in a weird way, like when you're on the road, because you are isolated from the rest of the world a lot of times. Like as much as you are frequently in front of people, you're not like connecting with people in a standard conversational way. So like I think you grow. I could come home and lock myself in my room and make myself write and make myself read more and do the 50 push-ups every morning. But I think it's you can like physically see growth when you're on the road and you spend a day reading, or spend a day calling your family and talking to people you love on the phone, and then seeing how that affects the show later in the day. I really love that aspect of things.
It's almost like journaling, like you have a point that you check in every day.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so, man, it feels so good to like get past the nervousness and it become an opportunity to be just pure like expression.
Can relax a little bit more.
Totally. And yeah, and that's when it's fun. That's when you start doing shit that you wouldn't typically do. Like the shows where we were like almost bored, like never ungrateful to be there, but sometimes like we've done this 5 days in a row and there's 20 people here, like what if I say something stupid, like just to see what happens. Like those are the fun when you're not worried, the rare moments where you're not worried if there's gonna ever be another show. Yeah, special moment. Where you
have this motif on the album that kind of relates to that of roads and cars. They keep cropping up throughout the songs. Where's that coming from for you?
I'm a huge...
Sorry, yeah.
Oh, you're good. No, I was going to just say I'm a huge grease monkey. I work on cars all the time. As you can tell, probably by just like my muscles and and just me as a person. You can just clearly tell I'm a big car guy. I am not a car guy. I don't think that was a good joke either, but...
I'm getting images of the guys in Grease. I can't remember what they're called.
I think they're called...
You know, the gang.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a term, and I don't want to try to say it and say the wrong term, but I know. Is it just a greaser? Maybe.
No, I was more meaning there's a particular name for their gang in that movie. But
the actual gang.
Yeah. Yeah, you would just call them a grease monkey, yeah.
Yeah. Good Lord above. I don't really know. I don't think that was like an intentional thing. I think it just like was by way, or like talking about those images so frequently. I think it was just because it was like our life for a while. Like finishing up writing that record like was a lot of time spent in cars, and I think hopefully that's like a relatable thing for a lot of people. Like a lot of my formative memories, and like memories with music, particularly like listening to music and it really mattering to me, were like on road trips as a kid, or like in the car. I spent a lot of time in the car when I was a kid because my parents lived far apart from one another, and so my mom lived for most of my childhood, lived like a 10-hour drive from my dad. So if I, every time I got to see her, we'd spend a lot of time in the car. Like, and she was
crazy. That's like the length of the UK.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
like driving from one end to the other.
That's so wild. Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, that's like middle Tennessee to northern Florida is like a 10-hour drive, and that's with my mom driving, so the pedal was definitely pressed to the floor. But yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of time in cars, which is not an exciting sentence and not anything super special, but it definitely, like, I think it bled into how I see the world quite a bit.
In what sense?
Just like, I think just because it was like best and worst case scenario for me, just because I had such an active brain when I was a kid. Like, I was just so sensitive, so like just a lot of concentrated time for my brain to just kind of go wild. So I think I had like a lot of fun on those drives where, whether it was conversating, like talking. I don't know why the hell I said conversating.
It was more fun than saying talking.
Yeah, that's true. I guess we got to keep it interesting. Okay, I was conversating with my maternal link. And
so that episode of The Simpsons when Homer becomes smart.
I have not seen that one, but wow, yeah, that's dude. Are you a Simpsons fan?
Massive Simpsons fan.
Yeah, me too. What are your thoughts on the movie? I know not to derail, but
I like the movie.
Yeah, me too.
I feel like the overall reception of the movie is like quite warm, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say so. I felt like it was majority good, but I have known people who were polarized by it. But I think they're like purists in a negative sense, like people who just didn't like that there was a movie in general. But I loved it. I thought it was so funny.
I think they almost took like all the best jokes out of an entire season at that point in The Simpsons and just threw it into an hour and a half. Yeah,
totally. They were like in the perfect spot to do it, it felt like, because they'd just been doing it for so long that it was like they were actually capable of having an hour and a half of good shit.
I think they took like 7 years to write that or something as well. Like it was in development for a long time. Yeah,
dude, that's so awesome. Everyone should take note. Every movie should take 7 years.
Or do a Boyhood and just take 12.
Yeah, exactly.
Go the full. Yeah.
Dude, I watched Boyhood when I was like 14 or something, and I just remember finishing it, and like if I just watched myself, like if 23-year-old me watched young me do this, I would just kick myself in the face. But I remember like it ending and being like, what the hell was that? Like, he just got old. Like, I didn't get why it was like interesting at all. And I haven't gone back to it. But yeah, I just remember like everyone being like, it took 12 years to film that. And me being like, okay, I've lived 12 years. Like, I don't want to watch somebody else like just do what I just did.
I had the opposite. I remember I watched it. I was the same. I was like 14 when I first watched it. And then I saw it again last summer. I've watched it quite a few times, but I saw it again last summer, and that was the first time that I've been older than he is at the end of the movie.
No way.
And I had like a massive existential crisis about it.
Holy shit. Yeah, maybe I need to go back in and experience it that way now, because I'm sure that's wild. Because it ends with him like going to college or something, right?
Yeah, he's like 19 when it ends, I think. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, in my head, I remember being like, I can't relate to this because that's so far ahead of me, like, but that's so weird to be older than him now. Wow.
The thing is, when you look back, if you look at that like 5 years when you're in high school a lot happens then. Probably in terms of like growth and development than more than any other point in your life, which is why it feels so much longer. Totally.
Yeah. I mean, like, I guess this is a cliche thought as well, but it certainly feels like you spend, I guess from the point, maybe for the next few years, I'll hopefully be experiencing new things, you know, but like, it feels like I haven't even started to unpack a lot of what I've experienced in my life up to now. Like, I don't know if you're supposed to, you know, like,
you spend the second 20 years of your life figuring out what the fuck happened in the first 20.
Yeah, exactly. And then maybe there's this like golden 20 at the end where you're like, you either figured it out and you can be at peace, or you literally just get to a point where you're like, well, who gives a shit? Like, yeah. Why the fuck would I try? Like, all I can do is not hate everybody and be mad, and like, I could definitely see myself getting to that point, but I'm gonna try.
That seems to happen though. Like, you look at a lot of old people, they're cranky and they're bitter, and
yeah,
you go one or two ways. Either you're at peace or you're full of fury.
Disdain. I mean, hey man, if I'm ever encountered by an older person that is mean to me, I like will never throw it back. Like, I because I'm building up karma points so that when I'm 60 and some kid was born in 2030 is like a dick to me at the grocery store, that I can like unleash and just not have any bad feelings about it. No, I hope to be a pleasant, this has been a theme of this conversation, but I hope to be a pleasant older person. Or like, I don't know, I just got to hang with my grandpa on my mom's side, who like I haven't gotten to see much over the past couple of years, or really a long time. And I was just fascinated by how many stories, you know, he had to share. And he, you know, he really only opened up on like a handful of them, but it just made me want to be at an older age than I am now, and have actual perspective, and not just like still feel like I'm flailing, you know what I mean? Like, it made me look forward to the stages of like being able to see why things happened, and like to see what's important from the memories that we make, you know?
Does making an album allow you to do that in a smaller way?
It's funny you ask. Yeah, that's really funny. I forget that that's like a good place to do that sometimes. God, it's so wild to me how little I take advantage of how awesome music is sometimes. Like, I sit here and freak out about like, yeah, man, I hope I have perspective. Like, I hope I somehow figure out a way to reflect on all this stuff. And then, yeah, literally the thing to do would be to write a song about it. But like, I'll end up and just like go, I don't know, I'll like go for a walk and then go buy expensive food somewhere and then eat it and just go to bed. A lot of times, like, I don't even turn to music when I need it most. It's so funny. I never thought that would be how I process something.
Are there some things that you would rather keep free from the music though, and just have as topics that exist outside of it?
Man, that's another really, really great question. If I were to ever be at that point, I don't think it would be because I didn't think there was anything that music couldn't touch on. I certainly don't think anything is off limits in music, and like, I've used it before to explore really difficult internal conversations, and like, it's really helpful. But I think I don't know if I'm at a point yet where I could really confidently share some of the music I've made about really, really difficult internal conversations. Like, it's so funny, like Sunflower felt the years that those songs came together, like it felt so confessional and so like, I am bearing my soul right now. And then like, kind of in the process of finishing it, I realized like I had a whole new set of things that felt taboo to talk about and felt like vulnerable and fragile. And so I think, you know, when it's time for a second record, like, I think it's just going to be a whole new list of things that feel vulnerable, because like, I guess making that record was effective personally in it making me feel confident to talk about just like emotions. Cause I think the general thing with that record is just like emotion. Like, And
it's raw.
Yeah, totally. And like, it's not totally like, I'll be the first to say, like, I don't think a lot of those thoughts are fully realized. And I think a lot of them were fueled by, like, you know, buying cigarettes for the first time, you know, like just like small things that you do when you're young that like do trigger as much of an existential crisis as you can have. Like, and I think there's a lot of emotions on there that like, I think were deeper than I was, and I don't think I understood at the time why they were so deep. But I also now feel like I feel more confident in telling the people I love when I'm sad or when I'm depressed or like, you know, on the verge of a breakdown. Like those songs back then felt like the only way I could tell people that. So like now it's really interesting to figure out what music can be a tool for now that I've reached a point where I feel more confident just talking. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's like Say My Name on the record. That was written right before you went away for a while.
Yep.
In hindsight, if that had happened now, would that have taken place as a conversation rather than as a song?
So likely. Yeah. And it's wow, that's a really awesome question. I guess like, yeah, you know, I was having conversations with people then about those feelings, but I don't think I was ready for other people to be right, maybe, or to actually be able to help. So yeah, like that song was like a textbook cry for help, a textbook like, this is me at my lowest point. So now I certainly would tell someone, because I can't really afford to like go back to that place emotionally, that I was feeling that way. But at the same time, when you weigh the possibility that writing a song about it could help other people, it's a strange balance of like wanting to be honest and vulnerable with people in your life, but also wanting to make art that could help a lot of people at the cost of your feelings sometimes, or of like your sanity.
I guess the other thing is, when looking back to that in hindsight, sometimes the only way to know that you're on the edge is to go over it.
Sure.
And if you didn't know that you were on the edge, it would have been a lot harder to have that conversation.
Yeah, totally. Yes, 1,000%. And I didn't know that, man, that's a theme, I guess, of the record too, or just like of that chapter of my life, was just like not realizing the edge was very real, and having to lose a lot of time and people and like days that could have been great to figure out that there was a cost to not talking about those things. You know what I mean?
Has it affected your songwriting since you've been able to open up about them now?
It's definitely, my instincts have changed. I have a lot less moments where I'm in a conversation with someone and I have to just like run out of the room and go lock myself in the bathroom with a guitar until and say what I'm trying to say to them there. It's a lot more like, I love to write after a long conversation now, like, whereas I couldn't have a long conversation without writing. Like, you know, dealing with just like social bullshit, like in my own life, like, you know, I love to talk to my friends about it for a long time, and then like in those conversations just kind of find what feels the best to talk about, and then if I get to go write after that, just like be like, oh, what was that thing that it felt really real to share, like in this actual conversation with a real person who like also has feelings, and like how would that look to put into a song. Like, so there's definitely an awareness now, for better for worse, that like, cool, there are people on the other end of this, and it's hard. I think it would be hard without consequences to go back to writing some things like that I've written about before, just knowing it affects others.
When you say without consequences, what exactly?
I think just like the classic, like, I don't know, like I loved the tortured artist shit when I was 18. Like I didn't get that you could really drive people away, you know what I mean, by being a mess.
Yeah.
Sounds like you it sounds like you understand.
I read a lot of Kerouac growing up.
Shit.
When you're 15 and you kind of idolize that, I don't know.
Yeah.
You move past that.
Yeah, you have to, because if you don't, like, I just remember when you lightly mentioned earlier, like when I had to go, like when I went off to rehab, like I remember kind of sitting there in the car on the way to leave, and I had two of my best friends with me, came with my mom and I to go drop me off at this place. And I just remember like looking at them as I was leaving and thinking like, I bet if I do this again, I would get it, like if they didn't come, like if they didn't want to go through this again. And like, unfortunately it took pretty high stakes for me to figure that out. But yeah, I mean, I guess as you get older, you realize like, oh, you can really, you are not God. You are not, infallible. Like, and not everyone thinks it's cool that you put cigs out on your arm.
Yeah. Does it come back to, you mentioned earlier on that as a kid you had a very active mind. Is that a way of kind of just numbing that a little bit?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
I mean, the volume down.
Yeah. And like the more you start learning that like you're, I'm saying all this like I know what I'm talking about. I don't know shit, but like
nobody knows anything.
Yeah,
we're all just winging it.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, I mean, I think the favorite, like my favorite bands and favorite artists, I love the records where it sounds like they just maybe realized that there isn't an answer to the questions they've been asking. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what I look forward to in growing as a person and growing as a musician is like, yeah, right now I feel like I'm going through a phase of realizing a lot of shit that I thought I understood, I don't, and that there's like not just going to randomly be an answer to some of the problems I'm having. And like, I like now to write about that as opposed to like just the raw feeling of like, what the hell is going on? Like, I like taking a step further back, even perspective wise, and being like, how funny is it that there actually isn't an answer to this, and that I could be so human to feel this? You know what I mean? Like, and I don't know what that looks like in a song totally yet. It's kind of a new feeling I'm exploring, but like, yeah, it's fun now to be like, dude, honestly, I've talked about my girlfriend a lot because she's awesome, but she's got me, I'd never listened to Father John Misty before.
Oh, man.
I know. I was like literally 23 years behind the shit, but it blew my mind to hear someone write from the perspective of like, I love the like, I love that he's just like, I'm going to repeat back to you what you guys have told me matters, and like, you can decide whether or not that actually makes any fucking sense, because it doesn't to me. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's really cool to be like, so basically here's rules that like the world has placed on us, and like, let's just say them out loud and like see how that leaves us feeling. Like, I really dig that. I think that's really special. I'm not the first person to like him either. I don't mean to sound like I'm discovering something, but like
it comes back to what you said about perspective though. When you just look at all these things with complete objectivity, a lot of them are a little bit crazy. Like, they don't make any sense. There's no real rooting and meaning.
Yeah, not at all. Which is also why I think it's fun to not write about that stuff. Like, I've written some straight up fucking like pop songs you know what I mean, in the past year, because it's sometimes so fun to be like, I like being pensive on like, there's not an answer, and that spins me out, but also like, there's not an answer, so why don't we party? You know, like,
I mean, Freeway's a pop song.
Yeah,
like, it's got a darkness to it, but it's a pop song.
Yeah, totally. It's silly, and it's like making fun of the fact that I at any point was like freaking out, you know, like, it's making fun of the idea that I could think that running down the middle of the road so angry would change anything. Like, it's about being very small, and like, I love that shit. That's why, are you a fan of the Front Bottoms? Do you listen to them at all?
I've not.
Oh man,
no.
Okay, I'll have to send you some of their stuff.
Where are they from? Are they? I think they're from. Heard of them, to be honest.
I think they're from New Jersey.
Okay.
Or somewhere East Coast, like Northeast. So good, so funny. It's like kind of like acoustic pop punk, like folk pop punk stuff. That's like just so.
Oh wait, they have a song, Mark Zuckerberg.
Oh, that's Nap Eyes.
Nap Eyes. Okay.
That band is so good too. Yeah, that's okay. I'm glad they naturally came up in conversation because I'm obsessed with that band too. But yeah, that similar vibe, a little more like emo. I don't know even what to compare it to. I'll just have to send it to you. But like, so funny, and like so many of their songs are like, he's just so dramatic and fully aware of it. But it's like, what else can I be doing but be dramatic right now? Like, I could accept that I should probably just shut up, but it's like, if I do that, then I might as well just not be living. So like, if I'm gonna be alive, I'm gonna be dramatic. Like, I love.
And
that.
where's the fun in not being dramatic?
Yeah, there's no point. Like, I'm tired of actually, like, it doesn't even feel good to figure stuff out sometimes. You know, like, I
guess we live in the age of irony as well, where everyone wants to be, you know, kind of witty and
yeah. I go back and forth on how I feel about that. Like, I think sometimes I get mad about irony when I don't feel witty enough to do it. When I feel too tired to try to be ironic, I get really pissed about it. But yeah, it's totally the voice of like our generation, is like very like postmodern, I think is a word I learned recently.
Because we're fed up. We look at global warming, and then we look at like racism and all of these hang-ups from the old world, and we're like, why is this still such a big problem? Right. And we're relying on people that are older than us to catch up. Like, we're relying on people who had a chance to do the right thing to now basically apologize by way of fixing the problems that we are willing to work past and change and progress upon. So yeah, it makes sense. Like, and deservedly, I think our generation gets to be ironic and sarcastic and sad and angry. Like, you know, it completely, I think, is justified. Yeah, there's a pain behind irony as well. Like, you're never being ironic about something happy. That's a really great sentence. Yeah, it's so true. Yeah, and we're all hurting. I think that's where I get like earnest to a fucking fault sometimes, that like in irony, I struggled so long, like I was saying, with like not being able to say how I felt. And so sometimes I hear, you know, ironic tones in songs, and I just want to like abrasively hug the person that's singing it and be like, you can just say you're hurting, like, it's okay. Like, I don't need fucking alliteration right now. I just need you to hug me, because I actually deep down am freaking the fuck out. Like, you don't have to. I get it, you're smarter than me, just hug me because I'm losing my mind. You need to use that in something. I don't need alliteration right now. Wow. I just need you to hug me. What the fuck? I'm gonna write that down. Hold on. I don't. I'm literally typing it in a note. Alliteration. You snatch stuff like this from conversation quite often. I think so. Yeah. I think it's like pretty. I don't do it like. There's so many people in our like generation of musicians that have just such an amazing ability to write conversationally. Like, obviously the entire family tree around like the Phoebe Bridgers world, just so many incredible lyrical songwriters, not to put them in a box just as literal songwriters. Like, those people do incredible things, but like I it's daunting to me sometimes, because I feel like I can't. I do get so worried about life that I have a hard time making light of it frequently, like in little things. You do that with the ketamine line, though. Yeah, that's true. I tried
that song was the closest thing. I think that was me being like trying to be accepted by the world of really awesome people writing songs in Pasadena.
That felt like an Elliott Smith line or something when I heard it. It's got
that's
well, it comes back to irony a little bit though, doesn't it? It's got a bit of ironic detachment about it.
And guess who was hurting at that time? That's high praise though. I appreciate that. Yeah, I feel like the Elliott Smith stuff is like, God, it's just so, I think no one will ever hit that blend of irony and earnest shit like so perfectly combined ever again.
And also, he was unafraid to come across as a dick in his songwriting too. Sometimes,
sure, yeah.
Like if you look at something like, do you know how well do you know Elliott Smith stuff? Are you quite into it?
Relatively well. I mean, I've definitely like listened to all of the records. I would not be the person to put on a trivia team, but I'm a big fan.
Do you know the song? I think it's a question mark on.
Is that on Figure 8 or XO?
What's the one before it? XO, yeah.
Yes, yeah. That song is crazy.
Yeah, but it's like, it's in that song, people are just wanting to help him. He's basically telling him to fuck off. He's writing from a place in that song where he's not in the right, and yet he's so unafraid to do so, and it's just showing a side of himself that we don't hear from songwriters too often.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that comes back to like what we were lightly talking about earlier, like at what cost can you be angry? Because like I can't imagine, gosh,
an angry song.
Yeah, I mean I can't imagine that didn't affect, that his loved ones didn't hear that and were pissed. You know what I mean? Like, but you and I are talking about it on a podcast on a Thursday, like in 2021,
25 years after it was wrote. Yeah,
right. Like, so it's a hard balance of what you're supposed to do, and I think it's an interesting thing. I would love to talk to more and more people from our generation about their relationship with that, because I feel like even when I was in like middle school and early high school, I had so much less of an understanding of like the problems that came along with being like potentially toxic masculine white singer-songwriter person. Like I don't think I had no idea that was a really destructive thing, and like wasn't inherently cool to just be a dick. Like, and I think I really idolized a lot of musicians. Like, I was like the biggest Jim Morrison fan ever when I was 14. And then I remember turning like 18 and like hanging out with people who were so much smarter than me, who were like, hey, fuck that guy. Like, like, yeah, the Doors were cool. Rock on. Like, he was an ass and he hurt a lot of people, like,
it's the same with someone like John Lennon though.
Sure. Right? Yeah, yes, totally.
I was thinking about that today. I was listening to some of Plastic Ono Band, and I was wondering, I was like, if John Lennon had lived until he was 80, would he have turned into like a Morrissey type figure? I would fear so. Yeah, I think a lot of those seems like someone who just wanted to piss people off.
Certainly. And like, you can, yeah, as technology has progressed and as the world has progressed, like in some ways, like it's even easier for Morrissey to be Morrissey now. Like, and it's
unfortunately so.
Oh God bless it all. Fuck. Yeah. I that's always a really interesting conversation to like consider, like what would a lot of those people be doing now? Like what would Kurt Cobain be writing about now, and like what would Elliott Smith be writing about, or like, yeah, any of those like classic, just that like figure of person, like who had such a strong controversial voice back then. Like, where would they stand today? I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, just because the world's changed so much and the environment we live in now is unrecognizable compared to when they existed.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine, like, we're going to have a really, probably, like, unprecedented, obviously, like, go of it to see where things are 20 years from now, if there still are things 20 years from now. Like, it's going to be, I mean, even the shift in our lifetimes, like, I'm 23. So like what has changed in that time? A lot of things haven't, but like the things that have changed are unfathomable. Like
the internet.
Yeah. I mean, so like my friends and I were kayaking the other day, and my friend's cousin was in town, and I love him so much, and he was like floating down the river like like literally smoking like a spliff, just sitting there, and he was like you're the last generation to be born in a world where computers weren't calling the shots. And I was like, okay, you're really stoned, but that's true, and you're really funny for saying that. But yeah, I mean, it's so weird to think, like, I have younger siblings. Like I have a 2-year-old brother, and like
wow.
He will not know a world where like a smartphone isn't a thing, and like it's just, I don't know, it's just interesting. It's crazy.
Thing is though, if we do make it to old age, we'll probably barely remember that world. We'll have a handful of memories at most pre-cell phones.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I remember the formative times of like, I remember first getting a phone and like those memories, but it was always, I don't remember a world where that wasn't an option or something that I thought that I really needed to have.
Where did your 5 types of beauty come from? I wanted to touch upon that before we wrap up.
Yeah, totally. That was Joey, the director, for the most part. That was definitely him just running some like really broad ideas that I had through his like incredible, wildly analytical filter of a brain. And he sent me all of those things and was like, okay, these are like the themes. Okay, like it doesn't sound like we're having like a conversation on it. And he was like, oh no, we're not. Like this is what they are. So,
but did he take that from the music? Did he listen to the 10 songs and then apply that to them?
Yeah. It was from the record, a combination of him just hearing the record and then also just us kicking around really broad like visual ideas. Like a lot of the music videos are really collaborative in the sense that like I will come to him with like one idea and be like, hey, what if, I don't know where this fits in, I don't know if it even makes the final cut, but like what if there's a scene where we're doing a synchronized dance on a tennis court and I'm in all white, like that. I think that was literally the only thing I brought to him for that music video. And then like a couple days go by and he sends me some giant like some giant like iPhone note that has like an entire treatment and all these crazy thoughts and other scenes cut into it. I think it was predominantly him listening to the record and then just like smoking weed and listening intently.
That's where the hypnotizing comes from.
Yeah, certainly. I'm not going to try to have some clever answer to that. Yeah, it's definitely what it was.
The hypnotizing works better if you're stoned.
Yeah, it does. It's kind of scary if you're sober. I recommend doing it. Not maybe, I don't know. It's so funny. That video has been like, so many people have like felt the need to express that they don't like that there's a bunch of words in the video. Like some guy commented yesterday on that video. I still get the notifications because I think it's just entertaining sometimes and makes me not take myself seriously.
Humbling.
But yeah, truly, constantly. But somebody commented and said, like, congrats on a great song. This would have millions of views if the video wasn't a fucking PSA. I thought that was so funny.
That's bro.
Yeah, but that was one of the nicer ones. Some people are just like, dude, the best ones, Joey and I laugh about this shit all the time. People will just comment and be like, indie rock is not for me. And we're like, what? Then you don't have to be here. Oh, yeah. Very funny stuff.
Where's the darkest place you ever found beauty with your music? Coming back to those 5 concepts.
I think kind of the whole, I hope this doesn't sound like a cop-out answer, but like just kind of the whole chapter that Sunflower was about, like those young adult stages where it seemed like something bad would happen or I would find something out about life I didn't want to find out. And instead of it translating to knowledge, it just propelled me into another place where I felt like I was finding out something I didn't want to find out. Like, those years when you're like, I felt like it was from like 12 to like 20 that it, which is a long window now that I'm thinking about it. Like,
what happened in that 8 years?
A lot. I think I was dealing with a lot of stuff from my childhood, a lot of traumatic things from my young childhood, and had a pretty tough go just with mental health all of high school and all of early college stages, which was like developing into, you know, like we said before, like I had a really bad relationship with alcohol and still don't drink to this day. And I think just kind of discovering the depths of my sadness and addiction and things like that. I think just that whole record was about a really dark time, and it was like 10 moments where light shined through. And I you know, gathered up whatever scrambled thoughts were coming at that time, and was just like lucky enough to get them down, you know? So like, I guess just that whole period of not knowing anything about life. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think that was a great answer, but
that was, because it ties back into what we were saying about these unanswerable questions.
Sure.
It's like in the search for answers, you just kept kind of going down the rabbit hole and finding more questions.
Sure. Yeah.
But then through that, you get growth.
Yep, totally. And like some of those songs I think were solutions and were answers. But yes, like you just said, like you get the answer, and then it's the hard part, because it's like, sweet, you have the answer, but it doesn't feel any better to have the answer. So I guess those songs, yeah, were just the few times that I had a complete thought, and was able to make even relative sense that now exists forever, in form of song, to like reference to help down the road, you know? Like, I guess all of that sadness and all of that confusion and pain from that young period of time, the music has made light in that it has become like a reference point for where to go from there.
When you listen back to the album and you read back your journal, how do those two feelings compare?
It's like the companion piece. It's like the same thing. It's really interesting. I did journal a ton while we were making the record, and the feelings were so wild. It's just crazy thinking, because a lot of my fear while making the record was like, I'm not getting my point across, and like I'm not capturing these feelings. But it's really nice to look back and be like, I couldn't help but put those feelings in the record. Like I couldn't have taken away some of that anxiety or taken away whatever in that process if I tried. Like it was just naturally there, you know?
It wouldn't have been true to the moment.
Right. Yep, totally. Which is like, I guess all you can do with the record. Like hopefully I'll write songs that I'm happier with down the road and like whatever, but it's all going to come to like a good record is just seems to be about letting people know where you were at and like making it feel like somebody could just swing through if they needed to and like see the full picture of the room